Fusion with IDE technology provides physicians with choices never before available. The intraductal exchange port at the distal portion of all Fusion devices gives physicians the ability to gain access, extract, dilate, sample, and stent on an ultra-short 185 centimeter wire, and all exchanges can be done, if desired, within the duct. Fusion with IDE technology gives the endoscopists hands-on control of both the wire guide and the endoscopic devices, allowing nursing assistants to focus on other important responsibilities. Fusion with IDE technology is flexible and can be used for intraductal exchange with either an ultra-short 185 centimeter fusion wire or with a pre-positioned long wire when desired. Fusion with IDE technology incorporates the best of long wire technique with new innovations. With Fusion devices, IDE technology is what makes the difference. There is an IDE port near the distal end of the device, wire stop, injection port, IDE reference marks on the catheter, which are used with the IDE reference marks on the ultra-short 185 centimeter wire guide, and the patented wire guide locking device, which attaches directly onto the endoscope accessory channel. Ensure that the wire stop is disengaged. With all Fusion cannulating devices, begin by loading the wire guide into the IDE port at the distal end of the device and advance until the wire guide is even with the distal end of the catheter. Then lock the wire guide in place by pushing the wire stop forward and securely connecting the pin vise handle. The device and the wire guide can now be advanced together into the endoscope accessory channel until they are visualized exiting the endoscope. The wire stop can then be disengaged by unscrewing the pin vise handle and pulling back, unlocking the wire guide. The physician is now free to manipulate the wire guide or device as desired. Once the wire guide is in the desired position, the physician can ensure access by simply weaving the wire guide around the wire guide locking device attached to the endoscope accessory channel. When additional therapies are indicated, the intraductal exchange feature of Fusion can be used. There are two options for intraductal exchange: the wire guide IDE or the device IDE. For the wire guide IDE, disconnect the wire guide from the wire guide locking device. Then slowly pull back on the wire guide. For visual reference, the proximal portion of the wire guide and the proximal portion of the device catheter are color-coded. When the IDE reference marks on the wire guide reach the distal end of the catheter IDE reference mark, the wire guide is even with the end of the catheter. Continue to pull the wire guide back until the IDE reference mark on the wire guide reaches the proximal end of the catheter IDE reference mark. This is a visual indication that the wire guide has detached from the catheter and an intraductal exchange has occurred. This can be verified fluoroscopically. Re-advance the wire guide to the desired position within the duct and relock the wire guide. The device is now free to be removed independently from the ultra-short wire. The device IDE is used when it is critical that the position of the wire guide be maintained. With the wire guide locked in position, advance the device in order to perform an intraductal exchange. Advance the catheter until the distal end of the catheter IDE reference mark is aligned with the IDE reference mark on the wire guide. Continue to advance the catheter until the IDE reference mark on the wire guide reaches the proximal end of the catheter IDE reference mark. This is a visual indication that the wire guide is detached from the catheter and an intraductal exchange has occurred. The wire guide position has not changed. This can be verified fluoroscopically. In either case, when a second device is needed, it is simply backloaded onto the ultra-short wire guide by placing the wire through the distal end of the catheter and exiting the IDE port. Then, unlock the wire guide from the wire guide locking device and advance the second device into the endoscope. Then, relock the ultra-short wire guide. But what makes fusion with IDE technology even more versatile is that all fusion devices are compatible with traditional long wire methods. When a pre-positioned long wire guide is required, simply remove the stylet and insert the long wire through the proximal wire port. If the long wire is your preference, keep in mind you can still take advantage of many benefits of the fusion devices. All fusion devices can be backloaded over a pre-positioned long wire and still perform intraductal exchange. When backloading over a long wire, place the wire through the end of the catheter. Bypass the IDE port and advance the wire guide until it exits the proximal wire port. Regardless of which length wire you are using, if intraductal exchange is not required, fusion devices can zip freely over any length wire, providing incomparable speed and efficiency. When using the zip technique, when the device reaches the wire guide locking device and resistance is felt, simply perform a mini exchange. Unlock the wire guide, zip the device out of the way and reattach the wire guide. Fusion with IDE technology offers choices never before available: intraductal exchange, zip exchange, traditional long wire exchange. Fusion with IDE technology is compatible with both the Wilson-Cook ultra-short 185 cm fusion wire as well as the traditional long wire guide. Fusion with IDE technology. Power to change, power to innovate.